Alright, I'm Erin Somerville at McCallum High School going over the U.S. House of Representatives, particularly looking at apportionment in the House of Representatives. So you have an image here of this chamber, and this is the larger chamber of the two. There's 435 people, or at least 435 seats for 435 people. Not everyone makes it every day. And why is this chamber so big, and why does it have an odd number? It's because representation in the House is based on population. That already gets us to answering the first question here. How does the House of Representatives serve as the more representative body? The fact that it's based on population, and we'll look today at what that really means for you, a constituent in this country. So yeah, if you're a larger state, you're going to have more seats in the House of Representatives. If you're a smaller state, you're going to have fewer seats. Of course, when I say large and small, that's based on the population, not the land size. So when I have this question here, I'm really thinking, or at least I want us to start thinking about the framers and how they wrote the Constitution. Where is the evidence that they intended for this to be the more representative body, aside from the fact that they put that in the name? So let's look at the things unique to the House. They have the power to initiate revenue bills. So the fact that they have the power to start the legislative process with regards to taxation. It doesn't mean that they can do that all on their own. The Senate still needs to approve such legislation. But they do have the power to initiate revenue bills. And that might be a throwback to the Revolutionary War's mantra, no taxation without representation. They also have the power to impeach an official. Okay, so if we are concerned about an official and their activities being illegal, then the House has this power to represent us and put those people, to charge those people with a crime. But they don't have the unique power to actually convict. That's left to the Senate, more elite chamber. And we give them a very short term length. So how does the short term length make them more representative? Well, if you only have 2 years in office, you should be doing what your constituents, what the people in your district want you to do. And if you don't, if you fail them, they very quickly have the opportunity to vote you out of office and put someone else in there. So the short term length keeps a short leash on a representative, whereas a senator with 6-year terms has a longer leash. There's a greater period of time for that senator to have an effect before being, voted out of office. So those frequent elections go with the short term length. They keep them accountable. They have to respect their constituents. So maybe think for a moment on what model of representation representatives are more likely to pick, the delegate model or the trustee model, given that they have a short-term length. You'd probably decide that if you were in the House of Representatives with elections every 2 years, you would want to follow the delegate model to keep your constituents happy and ensure your re-election. If you want to pause here, I just wanted to show you, we call the chamber the most representative chamber. I don't know where to put my face here. But what you can see is the current, and this is actually not so current, but the current Congress split between Republican and Democrat. But in reality, if we took our population and looked at its breakdown, there's a lot of folks that are independent. I don't really have that representation in Congress. And then around the sides, around this chart, you have how people are actually split demographically. So, for example, men and women are evenly split across the population. It's a little more female than male. But if you look at the breakdown, male and female in Congress, it's predominantly male. So it doesn't exactly reflect the true population. And we'll see the same thing with race and other religions. So pause that if you want to explore it. This is the counter to the chamber actually being that representative. Certainly not representative if you want it to be descriptive. It doesn't mean that the folks in Congress can't represent various interests, even if they don't come from maybe the same exact racial, ethnic, religious background as their constituents. Okay, so we know this. We've said it a few times. Power is based on population. So the bigger your population, the more seats you get in the House. So Texas currently has 36 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives. The question is, how do we pick them? Like, we know that the Constitution said these folks would be directly elected, ensuring that they're the more representative body. But how to pick the 36 people to go serve us, to go represent us in Washington, D.C.? I mean, maybe we should have an election and everybody goes out and votes across Texas and the top 36 winners get to serve. We don't do it that way. There's a few options. The way we do it, though, is we have each person in the House of Representatives represent a group of people in a geographical space. So we have 36 regions, we're going to call them districts, 36 districts, and in each district we have an election. The election across the country will happen on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November of an even year. So every 2 years across the country people go out and vote. On your ballot, though, you'll only get to participate in one election for one of the 435 representatives. So here you have a map of Texas, and those are our districts. You'll notice they're of varying shapes and sizes, and that reflects the population distribution. So looking out in West Texas, number 23, that's a huge district because there aren't many people in it. So it covers a lot of land space because of the lack of dense populations there. So with our system, a representative is chosen by the people of a geographical area. So that way, the representative from District 23, when he's in Congress, he can be thinking about the folks that live in West Texas. The great thing about this system is it ensures that every citizen has a single particular representative that they would appeal to. Whereas in the first scenario, I said, oh, we could all go out and vote, and the top 36 winners go to the U.S. House of Representatives. If we did it that way, it wouldn't be based on where you live, but you wouldn't know which of the 36 to email if you had a concern. And you, as a citizen, have a representative. Likewise, the representative has a constituency. They know where they are. They know how to find them. So the great thing about this system is every representative represents a place with people in it. The vocabulary is they represent the district, that's the space, and the people and interests within it. So it's not just people, it might be an industry within there. We call that the representative's constituency. So the representative from District 23 is going to be voting, thinking about his or her constituency. What would they need from my votes in Washington? The name of the system is single-member district plurality. Technically, single-member district plurality. All I have written here so far is single-member district. We'll go over plurality later. Single-member district means that one person is elected from each district to be a member where? A member in the U.S. House of Representatives. So one person from each district elected to be a member in the U.S. House of Representatives. And this is just a reminder that when you do get elected from that one place, you only get 2-year terms, so you could be voted in and out of quite frequently. I thought this might be interesting just to show you that the City Council of Austin recently moved to a single-member district system. So while today we're going to really be looking at the flaws of a single-member district system, it still has inherently good features, at least good enough for the City of Austin to switch to the system, and we switched because the voters asked for it. What this allows is assurance that every person on City Council represents the interests of a particular part of Austin. So you can have someone representing South Austin, East Austin, West Austin, Central Austin. Every part of Austin definitely has one representative on the City Council. We just moved to the single-member district system 2012, 2014. Okay. So, back to the map of Texas. How many districts in each state is always going to be the number of seats they have in the House. And that will depend on population. So every 10 years we do the population, we discover, oh my goodness, looks like a lot of people are moving to Texas. And it looks like some people left New York, pretty expensive there. Iowa's population stayed the same, but we've had overall population growth, so in a sense Iowa has shrunk relative to the rest of the country. Louisiana, its population declined, or at least didn't increase enough to keep up with the actual growth across the country. So when we see these shifts, like more people are living in Texas, fewer in New York, then our House of Representatives has to reapportion those seats. So it has to say, okay, in this chamber, these 435 seats, New York, you shouldn't have as many as you once had. Texas, you can get a few more. The number of districts has to equal the number of representatives. Every 10 years, that changes with the census. Now, I said we have 435 representatives. Despite our population growth, we don't add the number of seats. So Texas got bigger, but we don't add seats. It's not like when I say Texas picked up 4 seats that we're going to up the number to 439. But rather, they're shifted around. They're reapportioned. Population growth is easily accounted for. What we do with population growth is we take the country's population as a whole, divide it by 435, and that's roughly the number of people that should live in a district. So right now, roughly 700,000 people live in a district. And of course that varies and we know people move, but roughly 700,000 at the moment that I'm making this video. The only way we would add a seat or lose a seat is if we get a state or lose a state. So if one of our territories became a state, we'd have to give them seats in the House, and we would add seats. The number we would add would be determined on that territory when it becomes a state, that new state's population relative to the rest of the country's population. So if we found out that that territory had, I don't know, 2.1 million people, that would be roughly 3 district sizes of 700,000, so we'd give them 3 seats. So redistricting, that is what we do after the census when we got to redraw the map. When I said Texas picks up 4 seats, they're going to have to elect 4 people to fill those seats. And so when that's done, we are going to need to create new districts. Land doesn't grow. We use the same existing space, but we're going to redraw the map. So when lines need to be redrawn, the folks that do this would be your state legislature, the people you've elected on Congress Avenue here in Austin. I mean, they have research teams that assist them, but they're the ones that are going to propose the new map and pass it like it's law. They're going to that has to pass through the legislature just like a law to redraw the maps. So in 2010, Texas's population went up 4 seats. We had to add 4 districts, and so we went from having 32 districts to having 36. Meanwhile, over in Louisiana, they lost 2 seats, so they had to redraw the district lines to have 2 fewer districts. So in class, we did a little try it on your own redistricting activity. What I would like you to do is pause this and to watch the CGP Gray clip below, and to watch the TED education clip as well, and then come back to this. Okay, so if you watch the CGP Gray statement video, he says that voters want competitive elections and representatives want safe elections. I want us to think on that and what it means. What you saw with gerrymandering is that maps can be drawn in a manipulative way. So you might assume, well, if we don't want the Republicans to have an unfair advantage and we don't want the Democrats to have an unfair advantage, let's put Republicans and Democrats together and say, you make up a map. Surely it'd have to be fair. CGP Gray says that's not the case, that it doesn't end up becoming more fair. And he says that's because representatives want safe elections. So what he means is the Republicans and the Democrats will work together to ensure that each of them has a safe district, a place where they're not going to have to spend a lot of money campaigning, a place where they're not going to be terribly worried about winning re-election. Voters would want to have districts drawn in such a way that it's super competitive, that it's a close call, because that means your candidates are going to have to campaign, they're going to have to work hard, they're going to have to make promises and then follow through with them in office. So what happens by pulling Republicans and Democrats together might not be really what we want as voters. And then, let's see. Now this is from Mother Jones, so it's a liberal organization, but